a smashing time here in Southport. There's lots to do, and so far we've had plenty of sunshine. We had a good journey and we arrived during the early afternoon. I've so much to tell you, I hardly know where to start. On Sunday, we decided to take one of those open-top bus tours. We thought it would be a good way of finding out where all the entertainment places are. After all, we don't want to miss anything if we can help it. One of the first places we spotted was Happyland, a special amusement park for children. Everyone seemed to be having such a great time. The twins would be absolutely knocked out with this place. There's merry-go-rounds and little big dippers, if you see what I mean. The rides and games are just like those for adults, but at Happyland they're all in miniature. There's slides and swings and roundabouts, a cafe and shops, and the kids can have trips on the little boating lake. Next, we drove along the marine drive by the beach. You can forget that old joke about the tide not coming in at Southport, 'cause it does. We saw it. Mind you, there's a pretty long beach here, almost 7 miles we've been told. It's so firm that pleasure flights operate from it. Soon we were passing the Botanic Gardens at Churchtown, and as we couldn't see very much from the road, we went back to have a proper look. It's not a big park, but it's very pretty. There's a museum with some interesting local exhibits, and then, in the park itself, there's an ornamental lake, and one of the few ferneries in the country which is open to the public. By the way, you know how Grandad's always going on about his brass band music? Well, he'd be really made up. There are outdoor concerts in the park every Sunday during the summer, and if it rains, they just transfer them indoors. Before we went back to the town centre, Chris suggested taking a look round Churchtown village, and it was well worth it. Churchtown's the old part of Southport. It's hard to believe that you're still in a comparatively modern town when you see the lovely old thatched cottages. Just like pictures they put on lids of chocolate boxes. The open-top bus tour takes you from one end of Lord Street to the other. And what can you say about it that hasn't already been said before? It's almost a mile long, and the whole of one side is taken up with shops, stores, restaurants and cafes. On the other side are lots of gardens and fountains, and just in front of the town hall and the arts centre there's a sort of water garden and an open-air cafe, almost like the pavement cafes they have on the continent. Rotten Row. It's an odd name to give a road as attractive as this, but then I suppose it's named after the one in London. But even the London one can't be any more colourful than this. There's a wide border running the whole half-mile length, and it's just a mass of flowers. I'll bet Southport's Promenade looks almost as nice in winter as it does in summer. It's very wide, and like Lord Street, it has lots of gardens on one side and buildings on the other. By the way, I don't think I've mentioned our hotel yet. If you remember, we picked it out of the guidebook, and it's a smashing place. Just now, though, I'm still living up to my lazy image. I never walk if I can ride. Anyway, I've read all those advertisements about it being quicker by train. So, when we wanted to get from Happyland up to the Esplanade, we had a ride on the miniature railway that runs right along the side of the marine lake. Then it was off to the model village at the southern end of the promenade, where we saw an even smaller railway. The village is another of those attractions that are geared to suit children or grown-ups. It's so well planned. The paths wind about so that you don't know what you're going to see when you get around the next corner. The models of towns and village life are all built on the premises, and the details are quite fantastic. Chris is all right in the water, but when it comes to sailing, she's not so good. I did manage to get her into a motorboat on the marine lake though, and what's more, she actually enjoyed it. Up till then, the nearest she'd got to a boat was watching the yacht races that are held here, and that was from a distance. Up to now, we've only been window shopping. We're saving the actual spending bit until the end of the holiday, but even just browsing can be fun here. Most of the Lord Street shops and stores have overhanging verandas, and there are covered shopping arcades, so even if it rains, you don't have to get wet. We haven't had time for more than a quick look round the rest of the town centre shops. There's so many of them, but we're working on it. I reckon Southport has one of the best shopping centres there is, and we're not going to have any problems when it comes to buying presents. Unless, of course, we run out of cash. I'm working very hard on my tan. That's if you can call lying in the sun work. And most of it's been done at the outdoor swimming pool. A lot of other people seem to have the same idea. But it's a very big pool, so there's plenty of room. And if you just want to watch, there's spectator seating for about 3,000. There's a modern indoor swimming bath too, with a special learner's pool and a balcony for spectators. And if that's not enough water, then take a look at the children's paddling pool in Princess Park near the model yacht pond. We spent practically the whole of yesterday at the fun fair, Pleasureland, and talk about a thrill a minute. I can't remember when I had so much fun. We started off on the sky ride and worked our way around the dodgems, the big wheel, cyclone coaster, hobby horses, you name it, and it'll be there. Or at least, that's how it seemed to me. We didn't even have to go outside the fairground to get something to eat. There's plenty of cafes and snack bars inside the ground, so you can get anything from a quick cuppa to a full meal. The nice thing about this zoo is that because it's small and sort of intimate, the owner or one of his staff will usually be around to talk to you and tell you about the animals. And after we'd had a wander around looking at the lions and snakes and leopards and all the other there, it was time for the chimps' tea party. There was this lovely little chimpanzee called Judy, and I was allowed to feed her. Just about 5 miles from Southport, there's Martin Mere, the Wildfowl Trust. You know, I never realised before just how interesting birds can be. And I can see now why people take up bird watching as a hobby. You can either wander about or view from an area in the visitors centre, a sort of log cabin building, which also has an exhibition hall, a cinema and an education centre. We'd been wondering what all the sporty-looking people were doing here this week. Then we found out. There's a golf tournament on. It's at Hillside Golf Club, which is just one of the 6 in Southport. And it seems that golf is just one of the major sports associated with the town. I suppose that's only natural when one of the other clubs is the Royal Birkdale. It's not all competitions, though. Visitors can use the courses as well. But after watching the professionals, I think I'm going to stick to the crazy golf. However many times the Open Golf Championship comes to Southport, I just know I'll never make it as a competitor. Another well-catered-for sport is bowls, and Dad, you would love playing on the fine bowling greens in King's Gardens. What a pity we didn't bring Diana with us on holiday. We could have entered her in the Rosebud contest. It's a beauty contest for little girls, and it takes place in the Floral Hall Gardens on Friday afternoons. The little girls take it very seriously. They're introduced by Auntie Connie Crichton, and she has a short chat with each one, just like the big girls on the telly. 2 winners are picked each week during the heats, and then there's a final at the end of the season. Last night at the disco, we met a couple of lads, and they dared us to enter the English Rose Beauty Contest, but neither of us had the nerve. In this contest, the girls have to parade first in afternoon dresses and then in sportswear, which I suppose could be anything to do with sport, but this week they all chose to wear swimsuits. Again, 2 heat winners are picked each week, and they appear in the final in the Floral Hall, which is a gala occasion with all the girls wearing evening dresses. We got the chance of a flight in a helicopter the other day. Actually, we were both a bit scared, but we agreed to go, and once we got going, I forgot all about being nervous. It's a funny sensation looking down on all the places we'd been to. The pilot took us all over the entertainment area, and we couldn't miss spotting the pier. After all, it's 3/4 of a mile long. From up there, you can see how big the marine lake really is. It looked like a huge sheet of glass, and the beach seemed to stretch forever. As soon as it starts to get dark, the fairy lights are switched on along the promenade and in the trees on Lord Street. There's something different each night in the Floral Hall. We saw the music hall review, and we've been to the summer show in the Southport Theatre. The hall and the theatre are joined together to make one big complex, and there are plenty of bars. We went to watch the wrestling on Wednesday, and we're going again next week. It was such a good laugh. One of the rooms at the complex is called the Midnight Lounge. There's a bar and things like discos, country and western groups, and competition nights are put on during the week. Well, it looks as though I'm going to have to save the rest of the news till I get home. I'm running out of space. Besides, we've got to go and get changed. There's a good show at the Arts Centre, and we're going there tonight. Take care. Love, Carol.